The life cycle of tech products is getting longer. Gone are the days of needing to upgrade every 2 years, but how about upgrading every 10 years? So I've been using my 2018 iPad Pro for absolutely ages now, and it still feels plenty fast enough for me, and I think it's easily got another 3 years of life left in it. I've paired it with some really cheap AliExpress accessories, so a keyboard and a pencil, and it's turned it into a really versatile, tiny computer that I take with me wherever I go, and I use it on a daily basis. Whether or not you should buy one really depends on the price that you're going to be paying. But for me, I absolutely love this iPad, even 7 years later in 2025, and think it's still insanely powerful. And for anything non-professional, I don't think you're going to be disappointed if you pick one of these up used. In this video, I'll give you a full overview of how the 2018 iPad Pro holds up in 2025, so you can decide whether or not you want to pick one up for yourself. Starting off with what's most important, and that is the day-to-day performance of this thing. So the performance is absolutely awesome, even now. So when it comes to the basics, watching YouTube, browsing the internet, and watching Netflix, etc., you're naturally going to be like, yeah, this is pretty fast. I've been pushing mine a little bit more than just the bare basics, and it's still holding up really well. So recently I've been learning to code, and I've been coding lots of different Python apps using Pythonista, and typically I split the screen in two. So one part of the screen is the tutorial that I'm watching, and the other part of the screen is the Python app that I'm coding. And not once have I felt this iPad feel slow whilst coding, and admittedly I'm probably coding fairly simple projects compared to some of the advanced coders out there, but for my purposes, it's absolutely fantastic. I've also edited several of the videos that you've seen on this channel using the 2018 iPad Pro on LumaFusion. I mean, my camera isn't necessarily the best, but they're all 4K video files, and typically the file sizes are about 1 GB per minute. The edits I'm doing are pretty basic, don't get me wrong, but this iPad does a solid job slicing through the timeline with only the occasional stutter. Yes, it does stutter, but really not as often as I was expecting. I was even surprised how little battery it used when I was editing on the train. So I edited and exported the 3rd generation iPhone SE video over a couple of hours on the train, and it only used 20% of the battery. I do heaps of productivity stuff on this iPad as well. So using the cheap AliExpress keyboard, I will script videos, track my finances, and respond to emails again with no problem. Sometimes whilst traveling, I will also play some games on here. So I play GTA, the Definitive Edition, and Farming Simulator, and it runs pretty fine on medium graphics, and it doesn't necessarily hold up on the maximum graphics settings, but it runs fine on the medium graphics settings. I'm not saying that you're not going to encounter any performance issues if you're a serious iPad user, but if you're watching this video thinking, yeah, I'm not going to be doing anything more demanding than this, I'm very confident the performance is going to be plenty good enough. There are some inherent iOS issues that bug me and prevent me from being able to properly use this as a computer, such as the file management and third-party app availability. But this is a feature, not really a bug, and you're going to face these issues across the entire iPad lineup, which is why, in my opinion, you don't need the latest and most powerful iPads because they've all got the same inherent software limitations. So just for some fun, here are the CPU benchmarks of the 2018 iPad Pro in comparison to some other iPads. This just goes to show how insanely fast the M series of processors are, as they absolutely wipe the floor with the 2018 iPad Pro. I think what's a more interesting comparison is the 2018 iPad Pro against the entry-level 10.9-inch iPad. They're both very similar with almost identical multi-core performance, and that certainly bodes well in terms of the 2018 iPad Pro getting future versions of iPadOS, as spec-wise they're very similar. Admittedly, it's no guarantee after 7 years that this iPad is going to get more software support. But based on the benchmarks and the specs, I don't think there's any technical reason why Apple couldn't support this for longer. If they were to stop it getting support, I think it would simply just be sort of planned obsolescence as opposed to it not being powerful enough to run the latest version of iPadOS. I should also mention that this iPad only has 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is going to mean that it doesn't get the Apple Intelligence features, and also it is going to start to struggle with multitasking in the future. I absolutely love using this iPad. Out of the case, it feels surreal because it's so thin, and the screen, whilst not as good as the newer iPads, is still awesome. It's a high refresh rate LCD, and it's slightly better than the 10.9-inch entry-level iPad that Apple's still selling, and it works with the second generation Apple Pencil and a whole host of third-party keyboards that can be picked up cheaply. So like I mentioned, I'm using an AliExpress Apple Pencil. Watching movies, editing documents, etc. are all a dream on this screen. It gets plenty bright enough in daylight for my usage, and it also gets nice and dark at night for when you're watching a Kent survival video before bed. The squared off sides and everything about this design still feels really modern, not like something that's almost 8 years old. Battery is another really strong point with this iPad, even though it's still the original battery and is definitely degraded from when it's new. So sometimes when traveling with work, I can have 7 hours of screen on time using this iPad on the train, and that's a real mixture of usage. So I can be watching videos, editing stuff, coding, responding to emails and word processing 7 hours straight, and it doesn't need to be charged during that time, which is absolutely awesome. And even on standby mode, it also lasts ages as well. So when it comes to the battery, I'm really impressed. And when it gets to the point where the battery is no longer good enough for me, I almost certainly will get it replaced just to extend the life of this device. Is it good value for money? And this is where I think it gets a little bit difficult. You can pick up the entry-level 10.9-inch iPad brand new for about £280 on certain websites. It's like £280 on Amazon, for example. And I've been looking on eBay, and that's about the same price as this iPad Pro. I would personally be more likely to steer you towards the brand new iPad from Apple, just because it's got the guaranteed longevity and software support. Although I don't think there's any reason for Apple to discontinue software support for this iPad, it's still more likely than it is for the 10.9-inch iPads. If you can get a really good price that's significantly cheaper than the brand new 10.9-inch iPad from Apple, then absolutely it is great value for money. It's easily got several more years of life left in it, and I think it's still plenty fast enough. Like I said, I've been editing videos, coding apps, and doing heaps of word processing. Like, I use it for long extended periods of time without any issues at all, and absolutely still love this device. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Cheers and bye-bye.